Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive. Before we even get started, I want to say, if you want to catch all our future deep dives, and never miss out on these strategic conversations shaping the sport, make sure you subscribe to Rugby Obsession right now.
Yeah, definitely hit that subscribe button.
Because today, we are unpacking this fascinating debate erupting among South African rugby legends. It is all about head coach Rassie Erasmus and this highly controversial B-team rumor.
Oh, it's a wild rumor. Just the idea of it is crazy.
Right. I mean, imagine intentionally putting your second-best players on the field, like essentially throwing away historical momentum just to manipulate the logistics of a global tournament.
It sounds absurd, but it's this bizarre, 4D chess match the Springboks are allegedly plotting for later this year.
Exactly. I want you to think about a time when you were staring down a grueling, almost impossible schedule at work or, in your personal life.
Oh, we've all been there.
Yeah, you look at the calendar and the reality just sets in. You cannot give 100% to every single thing on that list.
Yeah.
You have to start deciding which battles are actually worth fighting.
And which ones you need to sacrifice just to survive, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is essentially the dilemma facing the Springboks right now.
It really is. And I mean, to understand why a B team is even a consideration, we first have to look at the sheer physical reality of the 2026 calendar.
It's a mountain.
It is. A single elite-level rugby test match takes a massive toll on the human body. We're talking about dozens of high-speed car crashes in the form of tackles and rucks, and the 2026 schedule just demands an almost impossible amount of these collisions.
Let's look at the actual roadmap, right?
Yeah.
Because they open the year against the Barbarians. Then in July, they face 3 massive tests against England, Scotland, and Wales.
Just brutal right out of the gate.
Yeah, and that July series alone is already generating intense discussion. Like, Schalk actually predicts, he called it a horrible experience, awaits England when they travel down.
Wow, a horrible experience.
Yeah, but then Jean de Villiers cautions that England is absolutely still a threat to be reckoned with. So that's just the appetizer.
Right, because the traditional rugby championship has been shelved this year.
Gone.
Yeah, totally gone. In its place, we have what they're calling rugby's greatest rivalry, which means 4 back-to-back tests against the All Blacks.
Oh.
4. 3 of those are in South Africa, and then 1 involves flying across the world to Baltimore. I mean, the travel fatigue combined with the emotional and physical drain of playing New Zealand 4 times is just staggering.
And the hits just keep coming. Like, after the All Blacks, they have a one-off test against the Wallabies, then an August clash with Los Pumas.
It doesn't stop.
No, it doesn't. And finally, the year concludes with the inaugural Nations Championship up in the Northern Hemisphere. So they have fixtures against Italy, France, and Ireland, leading into a finals weekend.
So when you map out the physiological demands of that timeline, the coaching staff is staring at an 11-month gauntlet.
But, that grueling schedule only explains the need for rest. It doesn't really explain the strategy of how to rest.
Right. Which brings us to the rumor that sparked this whole thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Victor Matfield was on the Rivals podcast recently, and he dropped a complete bombshell. He heard that Rassie Erasmus is planning to send a South African B-side to that nation's championship.
Just a B-side. Unbelievable.
Yeah, but he didn't just say it was for rest. He specifically mentioned it has something to do with the league points and where you finish.
And that is the crucial detail. Matfield's reasoning suggests this isn't just about, giving guys a break. It's a calculated move.
Yeah.
And Andrew Trimble, the ex-Ireland star, backed this up on the same show.
Yeah.
He noted that Rassie is always scheming and has done the sums.
Done the sums. Yeah.
Exactly. Plus, Hanyani Shimenge added another layer on the Bucks Impact podcast. He pointed out that if 2027 wasn't a World Cup year, the strategy for November would look completely different.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because when I hear this, my mind instantly goes to load management in the NBA.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right. Like, a basketball team will sacrifice a regular season tournament or rest their superstars on a back-to-back night just to ensure they're healthy for the playoffs.
Sure.
But what Matfield is suggesting goes deeper than just putting guys in ice baths. Is Rassie really manipulating the league points?
What's fascinating here is how this aligns with Rassie's established methodology. I mean, he's a tactician who studies the underlying mechanics of a tournament.
Very analytical.
Extremely. Double World Cup winners Stephen Kitchoff and Trevor Nyakine recently emphasized how incredibly analytical Rassie is. He studies opponents, yes, but he also studies the rule book.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the nation's championship points system likely has a specific structure. Perhaps finishing second in a pool or accumulating certain points dictates your pathway. A B team might be a mathematical tool to navigate that pathway without burning out premium assets 12 months before a World Cup.
But see, that load management logic only works if the players actually need the rest. And the famously competitive culture of the Springboks tells a completely different story. Like, Schalk fundamentally disagrees with Matfield's theory.
He was pretty vocal about it.
Very. And his argument isn't just based on pride either.
Right. Berger's reaction on the Box Unpacked podcast brings a highly practical counterargument. He points out that players and coaches are intrinsically driven to win trophies.
Naturally.
Yeah. With the Rugby Championship shelved, the Nations Championship is the only real trophy available this year, outside of the All Blacks series.
And he introduces what he calls the perfect ticket. Berger notes that many of the key Springbok players are actually based in Japan right now, playing in the Japan Rugby League 1.
Which completely flips the fatigue narrative on its head.
It really does.
Because we need to look at the mechanics of the Japanese league. League 1 limits contact practices. They play shorter seasons with fewer regular season games.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the overall tackle count, the sheer number of bruising encounters a player endures over a year in Japan is just a fraction of what it is in the United Rugby Championship or the European leagues.
So Berger is basically arguing that these South African players will inherently be fresher than their Northern Hemisphere counterparts by November.
Exactly. Their club season organically provides the load management Matfield is so worried about.
It completely challenges the premise of the B team waiver. If your premium players are already rested, the physical necessity for a B team just evaporates.
It really does.
I want to pause right here and turn this over to you, the listener. We want to know where you stand on this strategic divide. Make sure you subscribe to Rugby Obsession and drop down into the comments right now and tell us.
Yeah, we really want to hear this.
Are you Team Matfield or Team Berger on this one? Do you believe a B team is a necessary calculated sacrifice for the World Cup? Or are the players fresh and you should always send your best to win the trophy? Let us know.
It really highlights a classic dilemma in sports management, doesn't it? Prioritizing data versus prioritizing culture.
Wait, I have to stop you there. Because here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Let's assume Berger is entirely correct. The players are physically fresh because of Japan, so Matfield's premise about needing rest is flawed.
Right.
If Rassie is as famously analytical as we just discussed, wouldn't the cold, hard numbers tell him to ignore the players' emotional hunger for a shiny new trophy and focus strictly on 2027?
Well, that is the temptation of pure analytics. However, a good tactician knows that psychology and momentum are also vital data points.
Morale matters.
Exactly. Team morale, the habit of dominance. These are measurable, critical assets. Winning breeds winning. If you deliberately field a weaker team and they get thoroughly dismantled by France or Ireland, you risk shattering the psychological aura the Springboks currently hold.
That makes sense.
Rassie understands that confidence is fragile. You can't just turn off a winning mentality in November and expect to instantly reboot it in 2027.
The data has to account for human psychology. But Jean de Villiers points out a logistical blind spot that almost no one is talking about.
Oh, the tournament format.
Yeah. Even if the players are fresh from Japan and they have the psychological hunger to win, the actual structure of the nation's championship might force Rassie to deploy a B team anyway.
And this is perhaps the most compelling argument of all, because it removes emotion entirely and focuses on the tournament's integrity. De Villiers highlights a severely lopsided format for the finals weekend.
The format is designed as Northern Hemisphere versus Southern Hemisphere, right?
Yes.
And de Villiers notes that if South Africa ends up playing a Northern Hemisphere team, like England, in that final weekend, England still gets preference for their own accommodations and training facilities.
It creates a fundamental imbalance. De Villiers is asking the essential why bother question.
Yeah.
If the Springboks fight all year, accumulate the points, and finish as the #1 ranked team going into the finals, they don't actually reap the logistical rewards of being the top seed.
Imagine fighting all year to earn the #1 seed, only to find out you still have to play the championship game in the opposing team's home locker room.
It's crazy.
You'd probably rethink your strategy too, right?
Yeah.
Why bleed for first place if first place is a logistical trap?
Exactly. And if we tie this back to Matfield's initial rumor, that the B team strategy has something to do with the league points and where you finish, the picture becomes crystal clear.
He's playing the system.
Rassie isn't just managing physical fatigue, he's managing tournament logistics. If the system is rigged against a true neutral final, deploying a B team is a brilliant way to test squad depth without risking the A team in a disadvantageous setup.
It's an incredibly pragmatic way to approach a flawed system. And, it's important to remember that the South African B team is not just a collection of average players filling out a roster.
No, not at
The
all.
squad depth they've built is phenomenal.
We are seeing that depth tested right now. Rassie is already testing his depth, despite the crushing injury setback to R.G. Snyman and doubts over Lou de Jager. Rassie is basically spoiled for choice.
Spoiled for choice. Yeah, you look at players like J.J. Vandermecht.
Exactly. He recently received an alignment invite and noted that Rassie is a smart coach and he will know when I'm ready.
That proves the B team wouldn't just be filler. It would be an elite proving ground.
It would be a high-stakes audition. Guys like Vandermesh wouldn't be traveling to Europe just to fulfill a fixture obligation. They'd be desperate to prove they deserve a ticket to the 2027 World Cup.
They'd be hungry.
Ironically, a B team might bring a level of ferocity and desperation that a comfortable, albeit fresh, A team might lack.
So let's pull all these threads together. We're looking at a grueling 2026 calendar anchored by 4 intense tests against the All Blacks. You have the competitive pursuit of trophies, fueled by the fact that many players are actually staying fresh in Japan. But countering that is the tactical reality of a lopsided tournament structure and the looming 2027 World Cup.
It is a fascinating case study in balancing immediate cultural expectations with long-term strategic realities. And frankly, the fact that we're even debating whether their second-tier squad can go up north and compete in a major tournament is a massive testament to the health and depth of South African rugby.
It's a luxury most international coaches would kill for.
Oh, definitely.
While other teams are holding their breath hoping their starting 15 survive the season, the Springboks are debating the strategic merits of deploying their reserves against the best in the world.
I want to leave everyone with this final question to mull over.
Go ahead.
If Rassie Erasmus does execute this controversial B-team scheme in November, and they still manage to win against the Northern Hemisphere's best, what does that say about the sheer dominance and depth of South African rugby going into 2027?
Wow. The rest of the world would certainly be put on notice. It's going to be a phenomenal storyline to track this year. Make sure to hit subscribe on Rugby Obsession so you don't miss any of our coverage, and jump into the comments to let us know your opinions on the B-team strategy. Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we'll look forward to you listening to our next episode.